Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm ACated and this is my build. So I'm making another coastal build, which my last video was a coastal build, but I feel like they're a little bit different. This one is more for Brindleton Bay, which it is built in Brindleton Bay, so that's kind of obvious. But what I mean is that it's supposed to be more of like a East Coast, Cape Cod style little house, I guess. I don't want to say cottage because I've been making a lot of cottages, so it's more just a house. I was inspired by the whole coastal grandma aesthetic, but I don't think it really turned out very coastal grandma, so I might try again, possibly using more packs just because I think it was very difficult to pull off the coastal grandma aesthetic with just 2 packs, which I used cats and dogs since it's Brindleton Bay, and then I also used Zulani because I just had to. There just wasn't enough coastal furniture in cats and dogs, which is fine. It's expected because it's supposed to be a very specific aesthetic, and I'm going for something a little bit different from the aesthetic of cats and dogs. But regardless, I use 2 packs, so hopefully that's not terrible for you. But anyways, I'll probably try to redo the coastal grandma aesthetic house for another video, most definitely with more packs. Anyway, so this is just a normal Cape Cod little house on this little lot here. I really like this lot just because it's on the beach, so it feels very coastal, very nice. There's not any other lots like this in Brindleton Bay. What's unfortunate is that this lot's really small, so it makes any builds that can go here very small, but I think I pulled off making the house pretty sizable. But yeah, there aren't really many lots like this in Brindleton Bay. The lots like this being in this neighborhood, but they're not really on the beach. They're more just in the forest or in the hills more. So I really like this sort of lot that's like literally on the beach. It would have been cool if they added more lots like this in this world, especially if they had made it so that you could swim in the ocean. But they didn't, and they didn't. So yeah, we're stuck with what we got, but it's fine. This world is pretty old. It's way before they started introducing the swimmable areas in worlds. So yeah, that's why you can't swim in the ocean, which is unfortunate. So anyways, with this lot, I was trying to add a lot of windows, like really big windows, especially on the side where you can see the ocean, because I thought a really big thing about this lot would be the ocean views, and that's a really big thing about this whole coastal aesthetic. Like if you go to a coastal town and there's like just a bunch of houses that are on the beach or near the beach, they'll all have really big windows because everyone wants to capitalize off that big ocean view, which makes sense, of course. Like, if you buy a house that's on the ocean, you probably want to see the ocean, don't you? And then I also added a balcony and stuff so you can sit outside and watch the ocean, feel that sea breeze, or whatever. This could also be a vacation house. You could probably modify it to be like that, but for this video, I just made it like a normal house. Originally, I was just gonna make it so that like one sim would live here, so I was imagining someone's grandma, but I think it's now big enough to house an entire family, just because I put multiple bedrooms, and mostly because I wasn't sure what to put in those rooms, because they just had a bunch of empty rooms, and I was like, I don't know what to put there, let's put a bedroom. But you could just have like someone's grandma live here, and then they have a guest room, and then they can turn the kids' room into a playroom, I guess, if you want to do it like that, or just move in a sim family here. For one of my save files, on the slot had a townie sim that I redid. So I did a townie makeover, and it's like this old lady, and I was sort of imagining this house would be for her, but now I don't really think so. Maybe it doesn't really seem like her vibe. Not that she has a vibe, like she's just a townie, but you know, I might just make a different lot for her. Maybe I'll make the actual coastal grandma lot for her and use more packs. I'm just rambling. So for the coastal grandma aesthetic, I'm not exactly sure if I have a good grasp on what it's supposed to be. Like similar to the coquette style that I did for the first aesthetic rooms video, and also the boho style that I did for the second one, I feel like I don't really have a great grasp on what it's supposed to look like. I have some idea, and I think this vaguely follows the coastal grandma aesthetic, but I'm also not too sure. So if you could tell me if you know about the coastal grandma aesthetic in the comments, if I did it correctly, be sure to tell me. And if not, be sure to tell me how I can do it again, because I'm probably going to redo it anyways. I'm not going to redo this lot I mean, I might use the same lot, but I'm not going to use a specific build. I'm going to probably just make an entirely new build, or I might incorporate it into the aesthetic rooms builds that I do. I might make another video of that, so be sure to check that out if you see that. But anyways, I sort of had a hard time trying to decorate this lot because I was trying to make it look like how I imagined it to be, but it wasn't really ending up looking like how I wanted it to look. I have so many reference pictures and looking at aesthetics and looking at furniture and exteriors and stuff, but like it doesn't really follow what I really wanted. But that's okay, because I do like how it ended up. I just don't think it was very much with the original vision that I had for this build. But yeah, just like what I said before, I think I could probably try to use more packs, because that'll probably help, because I only used 2 packs in the base game, and that didn't really lend itself very well to the coastal grandma aesthetic, or at least for me it didn't. Maybe I just wasn't being creative enough. Maybe I just don't have as good of a grasp on the aesthetic as I should have to try and tackle it. I think it's kind of funny to imagine that you have to train to build a room or to decorate a room. Like you have to train your eyes on the aesthetics, look at hundreds of pictures of the same aesthetic to be like, yes, I have a good grasp on that and now I can build it perfectly. But I was kind of just doing whatever here. But I like how it turned out anyways. For the kitchen, I was kind of imagining it to be a more modern kitchen, because I was thinking like it was probably remodeled, even if the house itself looks kind of a little older. It doesn't look that old, but just like a little older. Some of the decorations I did definitely lend itself to being coastal grandma, more emphasis on the grandma part, just because we have older things like the phones or the antique stuff, like the antique objects and decorations and stuff. The style of furniture is also giving a little bit grandma, although I'm not sure how entirely coastal it is. I think the coastal grandma aesthetic's pretty interesting, just because I think it's less coastal grandma and I feel like it's more just coastal in general. So, I don't know. I was thinking about doing this house on a bigger lot, so I was thinking either that one lot, I think it's 40 by 40 lot that's in the same neighborhood here, or the other lot that's in the downtown area or like the wharf area. There's a little lot that's next to the, I don't know what it is, I think it's a lounge. Next to the lounge, there's a little lot there in the forest and it has its own little marina thing. And I thought I might have tried to build a house there, but I don't know, I just thought it should be a little smaller. It would have been cool if I had like more of a 30 by 20 lot or even a 30 by 30 lot that's on the beach, so I could do this, but they didn't really have that, so I had to make do with a 20 by 20 lot, which is a bit small. Oh, and also at this point I started using island living for the decorations and stuff, which I don't think makes it very New England East Coast kind of beachy, because they don't really have tropical plants and stuff. But I've also never been there, so I don't really know what their beach houses look like. I can just know from pictures. But I don't know. At this point, I was just more generic coastal to try to salvage that coastal grandma vibe. I've said coastal grandma way too much times in this video. Anyways, so I'm adding stairs right now in the video, and I'm adding them because I forgot to add them, so I had to move stuff around in order to fit them so then the Sims can actually walk upstairs. So that's great planning on my part. I decided to put a little bathroom behind the stairs, and I was originally not going to have a shower. I don't know if I recorded this part, but near the end, either recording or not recorded, I moved the toilet to the more main part of the bathroom, and then I switched that out with a shower because there was no shower in the rest of the house except for in one of the bedrooms, and I didn't think that was very ideal, so I decided to just put a shower in the downstairs bathroom. I think there's an issue with rooms in The Sims, because I feel like you can have a lot of rooms, but then you're gonna run out of uses for those rooms, because you only need so many things for gameplay in The Sims, and then eventually you're just putting random stuff in rooms to fill up space. Like if you have enough rooms, you're gonna start putting the same rooms in houses. Like you're gonna have an office, you're gonna have a painting room, you're gonna have like a hobbies room, you're gonna have like a workout room or something like that, which is cool, but I feel like it gets repetitive at some point, because realistically not every house is gonna have a painting room or like an easel room or a hobby room. I don't know. There's going to be a kids room later in the build, and I was originally going to make that a playroom, but I was thinking like, why would there be a playroom if there is no kids room? So I was like, okay, I'll just make that the kids' room. But of course, you could probably make that into a kids' room because I'm thinking like this could be someone's grandparents who their grandkids sometimes come to visit them. Which why wouldn't they visit them? Such a nice little beach town. Like I can imagine your Sims or like your Sim family coming to go visit their grandparents who live on the slot, and then the parents can stay in the guest bedroom, and then the children have their little playroom, and just to visit their grandparents in this little coastal area, which I think could be a fun little story or gameplay thing. I also did my first video. I did something similar to this, although it was definitely a lot smaller and a lot different from this, but it was out Yellow Cottage, if any of you have watched that video, and it was very similar because it was just like, oh, the grandparents, and then the grandparents can have their grandchildren visit or whatever. So I think I just tend to do that a lot, even though a lot is twice, but I don't have that many builds up that much, so that's a pretty good amount of those builds. I'm probably going to include this build in the save file that I'm going to make, which I don't know if I'm going to make like a grand cohesive save file. I just know that I'm probably going to use this build in my own save file. I might make one, which I already mentioned in a previous video, so I won't go into detail about that. I'm just gonna probably make a save file with a bunch of builds in it, so kind of redoing everything, you know, the thing that every simmer does. Well, like, I don't know if every simmer does that, but I know at least a lot of Sims YouTubers do that, so yeah, I'm gonna be generic and do that too. Another thing with base game builds or minimal pack builds is that I tend to be using the same objects over and over and over again, especially the base game ones, which obviously because I'm going to use that in every base game and minimal pack build, but you just use the same objects over and over again, not even just in the same house, but like across all the builds, you just use the same objects over and over again, and it gets repetitive and boring. So maybe I should kind of branch away from doing minimal pack builds, or just do some not limited pack builds just to make that a little bit less repetitive and boring. The base game does have really good objects. I think it's a little underrated, but at some point when you just keep building and building and building with them, it just gets a little boring. So sometimes it's great to spice things up a little bit. I do like it when they add new objects and stuff to the base game, but it's still not enough to make things very diverse and very versatile. I mean, objects that are even very versatile eventually will get overdone and overused, and just it gets a bit tiring. Anyways, so for the outside here, I'm trying to do a lot of flowers, lots of nature, but I was trying to make it feel very coastal. So it feels more like something that would be naturally growing in the area and not something that was just like planted here. I don't know, I just thought that would add to the whole coastal vibe and make it feel more unique. One thing though is that there's a certain succulent plant that was added to cats and dogs, but I'm wondering why that was added into cats and dogs because I feel like that wouldn't be growing in this region. Although maybe it does and I just don't know anything. Maybe it's not a succulent, maybe it's some other plant, but to me it looks too arid or tropical to be growing in a region based on New England, which is really cold, so I don't know. Oh, also this aquarium object. I really like this aquarium object. It's from Cats and Dogs. It's really cool. I think it looks really good. Speaking of aquarium, I also think I might want to make an aquarium build in the game. Probably in San Sequoia. I was originally going to make one in Brindleton Bay, but then San Sequoia came out, which was a very long time ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it was a long time ago. So now you can see how long I've been thinking about making one. But yeah, I kind of want to make an aquarium build in San Sequoia. I think that would be cool. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. Anyways, we're nearing the end of the speed build, so be sure to stick around for the showcase at the end. Alright, see you there! Alright, so here's the final build, and I really like how it looks from at least this angle. Let's see the other angles. That's a nice angle. That's a nice angle, and it's an okay angle, but it looks pretty good from all angles, which is a very weird observation, but I just thought that I might point that out. Here's the little front porch area, and it wraps around over here into this little side entrance, which I think is pretty cool. When you walk in, here's a little entrance area. Have a little table here with a phone and a mirror so you can look at yourself. Over here is the bathroom, very small, but hopefully it's functional. There's a toilet, there's a sink, and then here's where the toilet originally was, but now it's the shower, which I wish that I could have used the other shower, the one that doesn't have all the glass and stuff. But that's not from this pack. They should have a base game version of that, especially since they added the glass walls. And here's your medicine cabinet, so when your grandma Sim lives here, she can have access to her medicine, at least pretend to. Here's the living room. I actually do like how it turned out. Looking at it now, it actually looks good, and I think it looks pretty similar to what I was trying to go for. So hopefully it looks coastal grandma. Hopefully you agree. If you don't, be sure to tell me in the comments, because I'll be glad to hear anything you have to say. Um, yeah, it's really cool. I like the aquarium. I actually really like this little objects thing that they added. I think it fits in very well with the rest of the build. Here's a little desk and a little computer here, and here's the side entrance, so you can just step outside onto the porch here and sit on this bench and stare at that tree or something. And then I really like these little sort of wicker chairs that they have from Island Living. It was definitely worth it to have more coastal objects to use Island Living. Here's the dining room slash kitchen. This is a very plain kitchen. Probably could have added a lot more decorations, but I think it's fine. Added some flowers here to make it look very delicate, very dainty, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Here are the little antique decorations. I feel like the store would lead to like a garage or something, but it leads to the painting room. So there's easel stuff and paint stuff. I think this is a very painterly kind of house. I feel like you would have a painter living here. Maybe grandma paints. But yeah, here's the kitchen. I added this little bed thing here. Not bed. It's not a bed. It's just like a little couch seating thing here on the window. Because originally the bay window was a little bit bigger, but I decided to make it a little smaller just so that it could fit this little thing. Because otherwise, I didn't really have a use for it other than like a breakfast nook. But I already made a breakfast nook for the coastal build that I did last video, so I might as well have just done seating. Here's a little back porch area. I wish the little backyard was a little bigger, but the lot was kind of small, so I had to make do with what I had. And then I also added some of these little flower pots all around here. And then up here, there's another little back porch area, which you can only access from over here, so that's kind of a design flaw, but I'm sure your Sims won't mind. Yeah, this little couch from Island Living. I also like the way this couch looks. Then added some more pots and stuff. Anyways, that's downstairs, and let's go upstairs. Alright, so up here is basically nothing, at least in this little area. This hallway, I kind of like how I did this. Very simple, but it looks very good. It kind of reminds me of like a vacation home, so maybe you could use that for this. Yes? No. Yes? Yeah. Okay. But this rug, I think, is pretty cool. I never used this rug, so it was interesting to use this, and I think it fits in pretty well. Here's the largest bedroom, probably for the grandma sim or the parents or whatever to sleep here. This is very much giving, at least to me, vacation house. I'll show you the other room, and the other room's also giving vacation house to me. Here's this little area so you can have your Sims put their clothes here, and they can sit down here and change their clothes or whatever, which they won't actually do that, but they can pretend that they will. And then here's the bathroom, and then here's the shower, which was the only shower in the house before I fixed it. And also I added these little wall things around. So those are around here, and I think they add to the whole coastal vibe. In here is the other bedroom, which I think this bedroom actually looks better than the other bedroom, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you like the other bedroom better. But this is also giving vacation, because it's very plain. You can also probably add more decorations here if you wanted to customize the room a little bit more. Yeah, it could be like a guest room. Like grandma lives in that room, and then she has a little guest room, and then over here is the children's room, which I guess could also become a playroom, which I already mentioned. But here is the children's room. It's pretty big. Not really much in here. This was kind of a last minute thing because I didn't really know what to put in this room. So I kind of just put a little kid's room here. But you can do whatever you want with this space. Make it into a playroom, keep it as a kid's room, make another painting room. I don't know. But that's kind of it for the house. I hope you like it. I hope you consider downloading the build and commenting and liking and subscribing and all those fun YouTube things. Be sure to check out my other videos if you haven't already, and I'll be sure to see you in the next one. Alright, see you then. Goodbye!